Good morning. I want to go through Torsion Tools update number 3 today with everybody. A few exciting things I think added to the toolbar and obviously information in the solution for people to use in building their own um, Revit add-ins. So today, one of the main things I've added functionality actually for dynamic updaters into the application, and those that benefit you greatly in the fact that it can do things or monitor activities on the fly, but it actually does them during the transaction of them being created. So, um, an example, and the one that I built into this, is that when you're creating new sheets, most often when you add a new sheet, the sheet just drops down to the bottom of the list, the next number in line, and it's unnamed. Um, and that can get really frustrating if you have a very large project or if you have a fairly complicated structure in terms of how your browser organization is set up. So built this tool a while ago um, for in-house use, and that has some additional functionality in terms of sorting stuff. But just wanted to show here, if you go down to Sheets and you add a new sheet, just plug in. So then what you're now presented with is a dialog box that gives you the opportunity to number the sheet. So in this case, I'm actually going to make this A101, so I don't have an A101. And I'm going to name this testing sheet. So when we hit OK, you'll actually now see that instead of just being um, as it would have been the next sheet in line, you now actually get that opportunity to name the sheet as it's coming through. I said you can expand on that if you wanted to and adding different sort parameters that gives you the option to pick those as well so it lands where you'd like it to in the browser. But to me, it's very beneficial and very helpful to have that happen. Um, if you do not want that on while you're adding sheets, then on the tab up here, there's now a settings panel. And on that panel, there's turn on dynamic updaters and turn off dynamic updaters. This is a version of a radio toggle, so that's another feature that you can use if you'd like to. Um, so it's going to start off on, and if you don't want those to happen, you can just turn that, select that to off, and then if you go and add a new sheet, then it just does what it normally would do and just put it kind of the next one in line, and it gives it the unnamed for its name. This you can turn this on and off as you want to on the fly. There's no issue there. So that's one of the things from a dynamic editor. So that just happens. That'll just load and automatically run every time you load Revit up. The next thing we want to look at, I'm actually going to open up these other three sheets, is that I have provided some functionality for copying and pasting schedules and legends across multiple sheets. Now I know in Revit 2020, we now have the opportunity to actually copy and paste in place legends from sheet to sheet, which is a great improvement from what it was. But you still have to go open every sheet along the way and do it. So um, what we've done here is we've actually added this place legends, and it's on the sheets panel, obviously under the My tab. What you're going to want to do is you're going to be on an active sheet that has a schedule and or a legend on it. In this case, I have a legend here that's just kind of a tester legend from the place. So we just go to place legends. As you can see, it's only going to allow you to actually highlight legends, so it's actively filtering for that. Select the legend. Here you're presented with the sheets in the project. In this case, it's just these three sheets. So I'm going to say this sheet, and it's on A104, so I'm going to say also 105 and hit OK. And what you'll see is that that legend has been added in the same spot on all the sheets that you've selected. Now, one of the other really nice things about this is that, say the legend's already on the sheet, typically if you try to add it, you can't, so you have to try to get them all in the right spot. If I want to move this down, say I want to move it in this corner, if I just go back and run that again, select that legend, select these other two sheets, and then hit OK, all it does is just move it. So you can kind of update the legend placement across multiple sheets all at one time without it giving you an error that the legend's already on the sheet or something like that. That's a really neat way to go about doing that. You can also do the same thing. I'm just going to add this schedule up here. We'll put it in this corner. You do the same thing with schedules. So it's place legends or place schedules. It works with the two different functionalities. So again, we'll pick these two sheets. It'll pop selected up in the corner. And it doesn't really matter which sheet you it doesn't matter which sheet you start off with in terms of it being from the get-go. It'll work no matter where it happens to be. So in this case, pick those two, and I didn't pick A101, but you can see that it jumped around where you want it to go. So that's an easy way to place legends, place schedules, multiple sheets, update them on um, sheets. This tool does have a standalone version that actually is available on the Autodesk App Store. It's been popular, but I think a lot of people, aren't willing to pay the cost or whatever it may be, kind of seeing the broader picture. So I just went ahead and included it here for everybody to use. Obviously, if you want to support us in any way, you could download and pay for the app to the App Store. But this is all the functionality that has just built into this. So then the next piece that I want to look at is we added some ability to add shared parameters to multiple families at one time. This is, again, it's something I've had built for quite a while now. I've just seen the functionality of it more now. So this not only adds parameters, shared parameters to the families, but it'll also update the families to whatever the current version of Revit you happen to be using. So I'm in 2020 here. So if any of the families I were using were older than that, it'll automatically update them. So in this case, just pick the shared parameters. What it does is it automatically reads the shared parameters file of the active document. So if you're trying to use a shared parameter file other than the one in the current document, that's not going to work as far as this tool is concerned. But there are other options out there, or you could obviously manipulate the code to work for you to be able to select a shared parameters file. Once this dialog comes up, it's going to ask you to select a parameter group. So in this case, this little shared parameter file only have one group in it, just to make it easy. I added 5 test parameters. They all are kind of different kinds of parameters. So I'm going to just select, let's say, these 3 right here. Well, actually, here, let's do this real quick. I'm going to show you by opening up, this is one of the test families in the folder that, so you can see it's just a generic model basic family. I haven't put any information. You can see it's only default elevation is the only parameter in there besides some of this stuff. So there is no other parameters in that file right now. Close that back. Come over here to shared parameters. That, I'll select this group. I'll select test parameters 1, 2, and 5, let's say. And then what we can do is we pick just a directory. And once we pick a directory, it's going to go through and pick every family that's inside that directory. And add these shared parameters to every single family that's in there. So it's actively looking for just RFA files. Also, this checkbox, we can determine whether we want it to be an instance parameter, and if it's obviously deselected, then it's going to default to being a type parameter. So in this case, I'm just going to say those are instance parameters, hit OK. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to add the shared parameters? And it will tell you here that it found 6 families. So that's just another way to check to make sure you pick the right directory and it doesn't come up with 200 or none. And then we'll say, yeah, we want to continue. It'll open those up in the background, so there's nothing that happens in your browser window or with the active document. And then once we're there, now if we go back, and of course, you're going to get the the save files, which can be helpful, especially since upgrade process as well, in case something gets messed up along the way. But let's just jump into say family 3. And then what we'll see here under the parameters is that we now have test parameter 1, 2, and 5. You can tell one's a text, one's an integer, and then one's a length, and they're all defaulting. So we're missing 3 and 4. So now if we come back into here, we could do that again. We can pick this. We can say 3 and 4. We want to say that's now going to be a type parameter. We can dive back into this directory. Say OK. It's going to do the same thing to all 6 files. Now, obviously, doing some instance and some type, the caveat to that is that you are going to start to get multiple backup files. Unfortunately, there really isn't an opportunity to turn that off completely. Revit just wants to back them up, no matter what you try to do. And actually, I didn't realize that, obviously, in doing what I just did, I actually added them to the regular 6, but then also the backup 6. So we'll see even more files in here now. But if we were just again jump into the main base family, so good note on file management. It's important that once you upgrade them and that they're right, delete those backup ones out or move them to somewhere else. And maybe a further development on this may be giving you a directory to save them out to, so you can save them or do a subdirectory maybe in the folder you're at. So maybe be looking for that advancement to come. But once we go back in here, you now see parameter 3 and 4, one's a material and one's a length, and they are type parameters. So that's just a really easy way, I feel like, to add shared parameters to multiple files inside of a directory. You can kind of just dump them in. Category doesn't really matter, as long as obviously they don't have any parameters with the same name already in them. Um, it should take off and run. But those are the main updates this time around. Again, there's a lot of functionality that actually is going on behind the scenes that makes some of these things work. We're finally using the sheet selection method, the shared parameters, looking at external files, external definitions, how to pull and push information in and out, create shared files, shared parameters within the families. We're using dynamic updaters now to do things on the fly, so like naming sheets. There's also ways to do that so you can catch views. So when views are made, you can also name views. You can add information to views, title on sheet. There's just a wide range of things that can happen once you start using dynamic updaters. And the nice part about them too is that because it's happening during the transaction of those things being created, you don't have to create additional transactions. So your code can actually be really lean because it just happens during that process, but it also eliminates some of the opportunities that you have to manipulate things because you can't manipulate things other than how they've already been manipulated in the same transaction, or if you have different plugins or add-ins running updaters in the same things, and you can start to have some conflicts. So just some things to keep in mind, but really beneficial to catch stuff on the fly. And the legend and scheduling stuff, moving that around. I think that I've used that a lot. As always, thanks. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to me, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks.